Hey, welcome back to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Okay, look, this hour of the program, we've talked about retiring at age 62. What happens if you want to retire early? However, what's the most important thing that we have found over the last few years when it comes to retirement or just living, and that is your cost of insurance. Health insurance in retirement, especially if you're going to retire before Medicare kicks in, can be very expensive. So what do you do if you want to retire before age 62, or let's say at age 62, but before Medicare kicks in? Well, let's get a little bit of a background. Medicare itself, it is required at age 65 that you have to accept or take Medicare. It's what goes on. You have to. Now, if you say, I don't want to do it, no problem. Every year that you wait, you have to pay a penalty. So in other words, your payment is higher than somebody else your same age who started it at age 65. So the longer you wait, there's a much deeper penalty that you pay. So if you never plan on getting Medicare, no problem, then just don't ever get it. You've paid for some of it over the years. That's what they've taken out of your paycheck. But you're going to end up having to pay for it with the higher payment. All right, so let's move on. Let's say you understand Medicare, but you're now 62 and you want to retire prior to Medicare. Here's plan one. Plan one is you have a small business. Many people still retire and have a consulting firm or a small business. And this is what drives me crazy, because even before the whole Obamacare mess, anybody at any time could have gotten guaranteed issue health insurance. I know it's a game that people play. You have to. They could have fixed it. All they would have had to say was guaranteed issue, just like they do with small businesses. Because if you had a small business, whether it was a corporation or sole proprietorship or an LLC, it didn't matter. And you had a group, 2 lives, husband, wife, mom and dad, kids, mom and son, whatever, doesn't matter. 2 people, and it was a legitimate business, and you had a bank account. I mean, whether it's consultant, nobody said you had to make a lot of money, but enough to start a business. You were eligible for guaranteed issue. You could be in the middle of cancer treatment, having a baby next month, it doesn't matter. Guaranteed issue, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, HealthNet, Aetna, it didn't matter. All of them gave you insurance if it was here in California. Where that works for you in retirement is in retirement the same kind of thing. You can have guaranteed issue. Now, I don't know where the Obamacare changes are going to be and what the ultimate objections are going to be for pre-existing conditions, etc. Nobody knows that. But I do know the small business angle still works. So what do I mean by that? So many of you retire and do consulting. Or you're still going to be a loan broker, part-time, 1 or 2 loans a year. No problem. Maybe nothing a year, but it's still your business. You're still a broker, still legitimate. 2 people, you and your son, you and your daughter, you and your spouse. It doesn't matter. That's one point. Between then and Medicare. Then after Medicare, you don't need to do it anymore if you have Medicare. So what's another option?
Well, if you had benefits, healthcare benefits through your employer, and you're retiring from an employer at age 62, you could take a look at the portability of that benefit and continue to pay basically offline individually on your own. That's another option as well.
Yeah, a lot of times pensions that you were part of, unions you were a part of, actually had various programs that allowed you to carry that health insurance on to the next place of work. That means you're allowed to take it, go to the next place of work, but you still had that pension because you were vested in it. It doesn't kick in until age 58, 59, 60, 62, whatever. But there is a point in time when those old pensions or those old union benefits do kick in. That allows you the ability to carry it and not be worried about being uninsured. But here's another one that I think is kind of important. For so many people, they work part-time at some of these larger employers, Costco, Starbucks, Walmart, where they do offer health insurance benefits with minimum amount of work, 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week. So there is a place where you can get benefits and still be working part-time, because many people still do work part-time. That's part of their life. Look, one of the biggest mistakes you can do when you retire is to retire. I can promise you, I have seen it. Whatever your vices are, if you drink, you're going to drink more. If you smoke, you're going to smoke more. If you overeat, you're going to eat more. If you're generally an isolated person, you're going to be more isolated. Look, I know this is difficult for a lot of people to hear because nobody wants to believe this. But look at what you do on a long weekend. And now extrapolate that over 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
If you are somebody who is active and you go out and visit people or you, you take classes, you'll probably do more of that. But if you're not somebody that does that,
God bless your family. You're going to be knocking on the door a lot.
Yeah, or you're going to be, hi, it's me again. Yeah, I'm here again.
You're
Look,
just here.
friends and family are still working because they're still working. Some of them anyway, at least. Maybe your family could be retired. But just know that whatever your vices are, you have to fix that, or be aware that you isolate yourself. Be aware that you, spend more time watching soap operas or game shows or whatever we do these days. So that's generally what happens. Okay. Get out and get that part-time job, that kind of where I don't want to think. Look, we had a client the other day, and she's pretty high position. She works pretty hard at what she does with the company and a lot of responsibility and six-figure income. She says, I am willing to work for minimum wage, folding clothes, just doing something, getting out of the house, not being responsible, not having to do anything, being worried about it, just going to work, saying hi, helping people. I love shopping. I love helping people shop, and then just going home and not taking it home. That means a lot, right?
Sure.
Okay, another place for health insurance between then and now. I think if you pay attention to something called a concierge doctor. What is that? You could buy the least expensive, the highest deductible Obamacare plan, and your deductible is going to be huge. Pretty significant, right? In California, these deductibles can be $10,000. But you could also pay, but your premiums will be lower, but you could also pay for a concierge. What does that mean? A concierge doctor is one that you would pay money to on an annual basis, like a membership. And let's say they have $5,000 a year, and they have 100 families or 100 patients, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's 5,000 times 100, what's the number? It's $500,000. That means the doctor knows that, let's say, their staff, their electric bill, their lease, mortgage payment for the building, the office, all of that is paid for. That means when the doctor sits down with you, because it's a concierge, you can get an hour of their time. You call up today and say, hey, do you have any appointments available? Yeah, come by in 3 hours. Okay.
Nice.
The doctor sits down, they spend time with you, they learn about you, but you have to pay for that membership.
So it's like a prepaid relationship with the doctor.
Yeah, it isn't an easy concept for a lot of Americans to get their head around, but it is literally what a lot of other parts of the world do. When people are pushing for this, everybody deserves health care and everybody deserves in the socialized medicine. No problem, but understand, in Great Britain, in the Philippines, in Brazil, and I can go on, these places that are heralded as amazing healthcare places, Canada, there is a public hospital that everybody gets free health insurance, and then there are private hospitals and private doctors. There are doctors that say they're going to accept everybody that walks in. We have that system, you guys. It's called a county. Go to All of You Medical Center. That's the local one here in town. It's called a county hospital.
Yeah.
There's no difference. You can walk in. Did you know right now, I'm going to tell you something. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody I'm telling you this. Did you know you could walk into any hospital emergency room and get coverage? Walk in. I know people don't want to do it. We don't want to clog these emergency rooms up with the flu and, I got an achy tummy. Of course, I understand that. But you don't even have to tell them your name. Yeah, what's your name? John Smith. What's your birthday? Don't remember. What is your social security number? Gosh, you're the third person today to ask me that. I don't know. What's your address? 1234 Main Street. Does that exist? I'm not really sure. They still have to see you. Now, look, they may not treat you as a real serious patient, but you understand you do not have to provide identification. You do not have to provide an insurance card. And you don't have to tell them the truth. I'm not saying it's right. In fact, I'm telling you it's a messed up system. But this idea that people have been pushed out on the street for healthcare, even if you're past age 62 or not 65 yet, it just doesn't exist. There's concierge doctors for those that can afford that end, and there's county hospitals and free medical stuff for those that can't. And what about going overseas? Or 100 miles, I guess?
I was going to say, just right over the border south. I mean, it's incredible to see what the cost of healthcare is versus what I call the inflated cost over here. That's not really cost. It's the price of healthcare here versus the cost down in another country. And I say down because it's no secret. People go to Mexico and they get dental work done. They get medical procedures done by incredible doctors. In fact,
these are the same physicians that have offices in Los Angeles or San Diego.
That's right.
And they work there 3 days out of the month in clinics, like top-of-the-notch clinics in Tijuana and other cities in south of the border, down in Laredo, etc. And these places down in Mexico, believe it or not, are the same nurses, the same doctors. They go down 3-4 days a week.
That's right.
Or 3 or 4 days out of the month. And the cost is anywhere between a third to 25%. Medications, 10% of the cost in some medications, especially generic. Now, we're not sure if you're going to get the same quality or some knockoff. True. So you just make sure you get the same quality, the same brand, the brand you know and love. You make sure you go to a reputable pharmacy and reputable doctor, just like you would if you're buying a car. I mean, you're going to do your research. You're not just going to go to the first person on the street and ask. If you are a veteran, the Veterans Administration Hospital is changing. There's a bill Congressman Knight has sponsored and worked together to put together a plan that says something very important. It gives our veterans a chance to see other doctors, to go to other facilities, not just VA. Now, listen, I know my socialized medicine friends are not going to like this, and I know that some aren't going to like this, even my veteran friends. But I think competition will drive the Veterans Administration to improve its care. When you have a choice to go to one place or another, you can make those adjustments. And as a veteran, if you're eligible to go to the VA, you can use that as an option, even if you do it just between age 62 and 65. And what about, Jeff, just paying for medical out of pocket? Not least expensive, not big surgeries, but by the time you pay your deductible anyway, I don't know what my deductible is, $8,000 I think. I have to pay, like literally my cost if we get sick, between health insurance premiums of $2,280 a month, thank you, President, $2,280 a month. Where did that become fair? Fair. Oh, that's nice. To an $8,000 deductible. You do the math on that. It's $33,000, $35,000 before I get an insurance company to write a check for 50 cents.
Wait a minute. So you pay $2,200 a month to the insurance.
That's right.
And then before they'll come out of pocket, you have to give them another $8,000, we'll say.
That's correct.
And you have insurance?
That's right. So you can call... 22 million people will lose their insurance. Crap. 27 million people will lose their insurance. Not true. You'll have people that'll say, you know what? This insurance schmurance is just ridiculous. It doesn't exist. This whole insurance concept is irrelevant when I have to come up with $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 extra dollars just to be seen. So just consider paying for it yourself. Right? We have the best healthcare system in the nation. There's a reason that governors in Canadian provinces, I don't know if they call them governors, but it happened to be one of the governors in the Canadian province who came down to the Mayo Clinic for his heart procedure, even though they did it in Canada. And they said, why? Well, because I could be seen 3 weeks sooner or 3 months sooner. Incredible, right?
Wow.
So we have the best insurance, healthcare in the world. We just have to access it with either dollars that's coming out of your pocket. Veterans, if you're a veteran, consider working part-time, right, at the facilities. We said Starbucks, Walmart, different places that give you insurance for part-time work. I don't know where that level is, how long you got to be there, but you can consider that. And one of the final areas I want you to look at is, what if your spouse still works, or your spouse has coverage at work? Yeah, you're going to pay for it, but you can be able to manage that where at least the cost is not significant, because now you're going to be added to your spouse's coverage. So you might retire early. You wait till Medicare, your spouse retires. There's a plan that you can walk through and kind of build it so that you're not worrying about being uninsured.
Yeah, I can tell you firsthand, a relative, a very close relative of mine, that's kind of what made their last few years on this earth comfortable, because their spouse went to work, had an incredible health insurance plan at work, and because they were married, he didn't work there, right? He's been retired for 8 years or so, and was able to receive the care he needed. So that's also a good option, I think.
And look, sometimes the answer to retire at 62 really means a change of scenery at 62.
Yeah.
It doesn't always mean I want to go from going 60 miles an hour to stopping completely. So if there is an option, if your job is important enough to the company, if your position, your wisdom, your knowledge, whatever, right? Ask them if you can work part-time. Ask them if you can job share. Sometimes working 3 days a week or 4 days a week and letting somebody else work the other 3 or 4 days a week, companies will allow you to do that because they're okay with the fact that somebody is there 5 days a week, whatever it is, 7 days a week, but there isn't an issue with you losing benefits. Maybe you have to pay for it, but you might be able to get a piece of what you're doing, retiring early enough and still working part-time, maybe floating, like working from home or working with a temp agency. Because if that retire at 62 really meant change of scenery at 62, then temp agencies may have the option to give you an insurance package or at least allow you to be a part of them. And the last one, I think I said the last one was the last one, but this is the last one. Just manage your income enough, and who knows what's going to change, but as of right now, manage your income enough so that the Obamacare plan, the way it's laid out, if you make less than a certain amount, you're going to get the subsidy, which is free money, right? Government money. You're going to get the subsidy so that if you manage your income just below that number, wherever that number is, then you're not going to have to pay very much, $100, $200, whatever it is, a very low amount. So manage that income below that number, live accordingly, and you might be able to retire at 62 without any issue.
That's right. And I think a lot of that comes with diversifying and doing tax planning early on in your retirement savings, right? What does everybody want to do when they're making a boatload of money? They want to keep it. They don't want to pay that much in taxes. They say, don't give it in taxes, put it in my left pocket. I'll spend it later when I get to retirement. Well, how many times have we seen clients, they get punished for doing too well? They've put too much money on the pre-tax side, and then they're forced to take distributions in retirement, and none of that's been taxed yet. And so now that drives them into a place where they say, look, I've got a pension, or I've got these rental properties, or I've got these dividends coming in. I don't need the money to come. Sorry. The rules are written as such that you have to take money from your IRAs, your 401ks, your 403bs. And so how do you go back? You can't go back 30 years and fix that. You've got $1 million that hasn't been taxed yet. And by the way, you got to take it. Oh, you don't have to take it. You can just decline it, right?
Wrong. Age 70 and a half, folks. It's called required minimum distribution. Whether you like it, whether you need it, whether you want it, whether you don't. Tough cookies. The government never received its taxes on those dollars. So they are going to require a minimum amount every single year after the age of 70 and a half. So there is this component that you are going to be having added to your income, and it increases. So in other words, there's a smaller percentage one year, the percentage goes up, it goes up, it goes up. And as it consistently goes up, that percentage can eat away your savings at the time when you need it the most, which is an insane law, right? I mean, do you understand how these people think? They don't think like you and I because the government employees have pensions. So they don't think that, oh, wow, maybe I'm going to need this money for a later date. Is that not insane? You should be writing your congressmen and women and telling them, why are you requiring me to pull money out at 70 and a half? That's when people used to live till 68 years old, retired at 65, die at 68. And if you're still alive, we want our money at 70 and a half.
Right.
Today, people are still working full careers at 70. They're retiring at 75. Well, they're not going to die at 68, so they need money past this. So let your congressmen and women know this is not the right thing to do. In fact, I think it's doing a disservice because it's forcing you over time to become poor and dependent on the government and on the Obamacare subsidies, then on Social Security, on housing, right? How many clients do we have that started out with a wonderful career and now they're on subsidized Section 8 housing because the government, right? Why is that a good thing for you to leave self-dependency and independence and freedom and to become a dependent on the government more and more and more? Somebody benefits from that. You got to ask yourself. Somebody benefits. If you think you're the one that benefits, great, that's fine. But somebody does. or a group of people or a group of individuals. And that is what you need to think about. How do you protect you and your family? Who cares that other people are taken care of? How about you and your family? Let's start there. Let's start making sure you and your family are taken care of. And then later on, that's fine, the government. The government is supposed to serve you. Health insurance has become this wacky thing. Be very careful with it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to give you some benefits and a recap. And the recap is going to be important because for some of you that have just joined us in Facebook Live, we're going to go back to the top of the hour and we're going to give you some pointers. How do you retire financially before age 62? And how do you manage your health care between age 62 and 65 before Medicare kicks in? What do you do to make that happen? We've got that and a whole lot more when we come back on Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. That's Jeff Gerard. I'm Arif Halaby. On your place for news, talk, and information, this is KHTS. Hey, welcome back to the show, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby. As we finish up this hour of the program, I'm with Jeff Gerard, and we're talking about the recap of how can you retire at age 62. In other words, where does it come into play so that you and your family can, if for some of you anyway, begin your life, right? Begin the traveling, begin your retirement dreams, right? For a lot of people, what do they want to do when they grow up? Well, they don't do it until age 62. They do it usually before, but sometimes you don't. So how do you make sure that your family is ready as well? Because remember, if you're going to retire at age 62, it's a different lifestyle for the rest of the people in the household, especially if you had a stay-at-home spouse. And let's just play the traditional role for a minute. And your wife was home and she had a routine. She had a system in place. She had a way things happen. And suddenly you're there and you're going, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? Huh? You done yet? Hey, you want to go out? She's like, no, I got things I'm doing. How about now? How about now? All right. How many of you spouses have had your other folks home? It doesn't happen in my house, but sometimes it does. And those people sit around and they're like tugging at your shirts. Hey, what do we do now? What do we do now? So remember, there are other people in your household want and will end up retiring with you and will at least be going through the process with you. So keep that in mind as you go through retirement. Okay, so what is some of the recap? Retiring at age 62, for those of you that just joined us and you missed the last half, let's go over that. Number one, you got to start. Open an IRA, your retirement account at work, and do the matching. You're going to have a matching plan of some sort usually, which means you put in money 4%, 6%, whatever the company matches. I want you to max out that first. Next, you go to the Roth IRA. What is the Roth? It's pre-tax money. So it's post-tax money when you put it in. Never taxed again. Okay, your pre-tax goes into your retirement account at work, your 401k, 403b. Your post-tax money goes into, which means after tax, $20 in your pocket, same thing. That goes in to the Roth IRA. You can only put in $5,500 if you're under age 55 and under age 50. If you're older age 50, it's not $5,500. You get a whole $1,000 more, and it becomes $6,500. It's called a catch-up provision. All right, $6,500. So what does that mean for you as an individual as you're trying to save and plan for your future? It means you do those two things, but what if you have money left over?
Well, then that leaves some areas for you to go and invest and save in alternative investments. And that could be things like real estate. It could be things like, life insurance. It could be other assets that aren't offered inside of your 401k or your IRA. So you want to check with your tax advisor, of course, but when you're ready to do this and you have that extra money, take a look at some of those other areas where you can actually start seeing some real dividends and some real income come back to you. Versus just trying to save on taxes, right? Because real estate is definitely one of the things that you want to take a look at.
And remember, part of your life, right, is, especially if you've been saving and you've been doing what you were supposed to do, part of your life as you've been building and planning and setting aside money for your retirement and your lifestyle is to make sure the day you retire and when that happens, you make sure you move your money to safety. It's nice the stock market's up and down. You want to leave some of it there, that's fine, whatever the number is. But the chunk of money that you're counting on living, especially before your health insurance kicks in with the Medicare, or especially before you get the next pension, or before you just want to keep some of it safe, take half, take 2/3, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But make sure you don't play along with this market game. it's a very dangerous. When life is good, you're the smartest person in the room. How many times, I'll raise my hand, how many times have you bought a house and it's gone up in value? Yeah, oh yeah, right? Both of us.
Yeah.
Look what I did. I bought a house for 183 and it's gone up to 400. And you go, look what I did. Well, if you're that smart, Arif, why didn't you buy 2? If you knew it was going to happen, why didn't you buy 4? Because you didn't. Don't take credit for something that the market or the system or the business cycle is doing anyway. Realize you were lucky, you were in the right spot at the right time, you floated up with the boats in the harbor, and then you kind of get out. With some or all of it, I don't know, you decide, but something get out. Because people are going to need this money sometime. And I don't want it to be in a downward trend. Okay, here's another one, Jeff. Give me, we said part-time work. Tell me about that.
Well, part-time work is going to do a couple of things. It's number one, it's going to keep you sharp and on point, right? Because if you don't go to work every day and you were used to doing that for 3 decades, chances are you're going to stagnate. I've seen it happen. People come out of retirement because they're bored, right? But you have now extra income because when you're working, you're making money. You're not spending money like you do on a Saturday with 7 Saturdays in a row. That can really deplete retirement if you didn't put it together properly. But in addition to that, if you work for one of those big employers like Arif mentioned, they may have some benefits, which kind of ties into the next part, which is really managing the health care between when you retire, whether it's 60, 61, 62, and when Medicare kicks in at 65. Working part-time between now and then, that's a great bridge, and it's got a lot of benefits.
And I can tell you a lot of business owners that I know that are friends, they appreciate hiring older people. In other words, this whole, there's this discrimination at 50 years of age or 60 years. Look, maybe that was the case, and maybe I'm sure it still is, especially with a more physical job. Maybe that's, I don't know. But I can tell you the maturity, the discipline, and the wisdom that comes with hiring somebody who has already had one career, who is away from the baloney of the day-to-day, drama that happens in a 21-year-old's life. Life changes a little bit. And I think there's a wisdom element that says, let's work around people that are experienced and appreciative, right? So don't forget, you're valued a little bit more than you think sometimes. Okay, now what about healthcare? Just to recap, a couple of options with healthcare between now and the time Medicare kicks in, or let's say between age 62 and when Medicare kicks in. Number one, remember that in the healthcare world, you can go out of the United States. I have seen it down in Costa Rica. I have seen it in Mexico. I have seen it in the Philippines. I have seen out of the United States healthcare as good or better than you can get here, even with insurance, right? For a lot of people here, you have insurance, but you don't use it until the first $10,000 or $15,000 out of your pocket. So why even have it? And this whole baloney about, 27 million people are going to lose their insurance. No. They're going to choose not to have insurance because there really isn't insurance when you have to pay $10,000 a year just to open the door. So remember that. And the last thing I want to touch on, remember that your spouse could have a plan, and there are things called concierge where you pay the physician a fixed rate every year for a membership, and they have a fixed amount of clients. Hope that helps. Retire at 62. I'm Arif Halaby, and that's Jeff Gerard. On your place for news, talk, and information, this is AM 1220 KHTS.